So hello, and welcome to Riff Script presents All Fingers and Thumbs. Well, आज weather is very cold today over here, Janish. And sorry अगर मेरा आवाज थोड़ा bass ज़्यादा लग रहा हो तो, but and so Janish, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. हमारे यहाँ तो
हाँ
एग्जैक्ट ऑपोजिट वेदर है, तो हमारे यहाँ गर्मी स्टार्ट हो गई है. तो वी आर ऑन अ ऑपोजिट स्पेक्ट्रम ऑफ वेदर कंडीशंस.
हाँ एग्जैक्टली और मैं ही जानता हूँ मैं कैसे मशक्कत करके उठा हूँ आज पॉडकास्ट के लिए बिकॉज आई वाज फीलिंग वेरी स्लीपी. और मेन रीजन आज का जो पॉडकास्ट है वो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग होने वाला है क्योंकि आज
यस.
फिर से वी आर कंटिन्यूइंग ऑन आवर मंडाला टॉपिक.
यस.
जो पिछला पॉडकास्ट था जो हमने किया था उस पे हमारे जो रिस्पॉन्सेस थे वो बहुत अच्छे आए थे और हमने सोचा कि ओके नाउ लेट्स कंटिन्यू दिस फर्दर बिकॉज इट इज अ
यस.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक मंडाला. तो आज के गेस्ट जैनिश आप उनका कुछ परिचय देना चाहे तो प्लीज.
तो आज के जो गेस्ट है हमारे, वो है एक यंग और बडिंग आर्टिस्ट. शी डिड हर लॉ. She finished her law degree, and then she was also intrigued by art, so she started making mandalas from a very young age. She's just 23, and she's making a hell lot of mandalas. She creates customized mandalas for based on the preferences of the customers, who are willing to pay for her artwork. And she's really good at what she does. And when I had a conversation with her, uh, it was just it was all about mandalas, so I was quite intrigued, and I was quite fascinated to make sure that she comes here, and we can all learn about mandalas. So her name is Gargi Sinha. She is a mandala artist, and we are sure that by the end of this episode, all of us will get to learn something about mandalas, and we'll start doing something about it. So let's welcome Gargi today.
So
Batao.
one minute before you welcome Gargi, I have something for the audience. So guys, you must have been watching. Thank you firstly thank you for supporting us through this journey, and thank you for being here today as well. और एक important बात मैं share करना चाहूंगा कि Janish has been putting a lot of effort in finding our guests because you see जो पिछले हमने जो पॉडकास्ट किए 3-4 उसमें जो गेस्ट थे they were not our friends or colleagues or no one. They were just totally strangers, and to whom Janish made an effort to connect to, and due to his efforts, we were successful in doing this podcast with them. So एक सपोर्ट और जो एक एंकरेजमेंट कहते हैं उसकी एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप अगर इधर हैं इफ यू आर वाचिंग आवर पॉडकास्ट एंड इफ यू आर लाइकिंग इट डोंट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब एंड डोंट फॉरगेट टू शेयर एज वेल बिकॉज दैट थिंग मोटिवेट्स अस एंड वही चीज है जो हमें आगे ले जाएगी. तो पहले ये चीज क्लियर करनी थी एंड देन नाउ वी कैन begin with the podcast, today's podcast.
Thank you for making me emotional at the beginning of this podcast. Now let's welcome Gargi. Hello, hello.
Hi. What is talking about?
So we guys were talking about this thing only, like mandala. So the previous podcast we did, it was very interesting, and I didn't know anything about mandala. Like I had zero knowledge about it. I mean, मैंने देखा था कि ये चीज होती क्या है, but मुझे ये नहीं मालूम था कि उस चीज को मंडाला कहते हैं. And then
Right.
it was very interesting. And then thanks to Jainish, he made an effort. He discovered your page, and you guys got into contact, and then we are successfully doing a second podcast on this particular topic, which is called mandala. And like Janish told me, like when he said the word mandala, you spoke for like
She was
a constant
unstoppable.
7 to 8 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know this was your second podcast on mandalas. I thought you guys are like touching the topic for the first time. But great. I'm glad you have like already talked about it and everything.
No, actually, we didn't talk about mandala specifically. We were doing a podcast on visual art in which we mentioned some parts of and some portions of mandalas, because the guest we had, she was also into mandalas, so we talked about it a little, and then we got more curious that we need to do this separately. We need to work on mandalas, and we had to make this podcast anyway. So, and we found
Oh, that's
we are really thankful that we found you, right? We found the right person.
great. I'm glad I found you guys too.
So yes, Gargi, I discovered your page when Jainesh, sent me the link. So ये सब चीजें, like the very basic and the first question, like how it all started and from when it all started.
Oh, okay. So I was always into making art, and I loved drawing from as long as I can remember, since I was little. And I was also, since I loved doing it so much and I used to draw so much, I was also like, a little better than all the other people around me. I was better at it. It just came to me naturally.
Yeah.
And because so I wanted to pursue a career in the field. Obviously, I wanted to become an artist or a designer. But my parents did not see a lot of value in all of that as a career path. So they never really allowed me, like initially after I completed school and I was applying for bachelor's. They did not want me to take up a creative field. But then later on, they asked me to get into law and get the integrated degree, the 5-year course that we have here. And I did that. I realized, okay, if this we had that whole thing that every typical brown family has, where you have a discussion or more like an argument where you can't agree with each other and the child has to give in and ultimately do what the parent is saying. So my parents got me to do law. I did that, and through those 5 years of doing law, I continued making art. And surprisingly, people started liking it and they offered to buy my work, which was very surprising for me, and I was also obviously very happy about it. And then eventually my parents also started seeing that there is value in what she's doing, and she is serious about it, and she really could make something out of it in terms of a career. And they started seeing other people around them too, other people who were in creative fields and how well they were doing. So when they saw that I had started already selling my work without having any formal training in the field, they thought that they should give me a chance to do what I wanted to do. And that's how mandalas became a thing. So the reason I started making mandalas was this person who was a mutual friend also saw my profile, like you guys did, and he was following me, and he used to see that I used to just make those basic sketches with a lot of shading and everything. And he was an expert in making mandalas himself. So he just tells me one day, Gargi, I think you should pick an off-white sheet of paper and get microns and just make mandalas. And I used to look up to him because his sense of aesthetics was amazing. It still is. They still are. I mean, his sense of aesthetics is still amazing, and his skills, artistic skills in terms of making mandalas is also like pretty amazing. Though he doesn't make them anymore, but he got me into making them, and I'm glad that he did. I'm glad that I listened to him, and I thought that, okay, this is something new, I should give it a try. And I've ever since then, I think it was 2-3 years ago that this happened, and uske baad se I've never stopped making mandalas after that. So yeah, that's how it began.
इसी क्वेश्चन जो आपने आंसर दिया, कंटिन्यूइंग दैट थिंग कि जैसे आपने कहा कि यू स्टार्टेड सेलिंग योर द मंडालास. Do you remember the very first deal that that you made successfully, and how was the experience?
Yeah. So the first time I was out with a friend, and she used to obviously follow my work and see that I'm making mandalas and everything. And she saw that I had excuse me. She saw that I had drawn a mandala on a diary cover for someone as a gift. And she was like, okay, this is so pretty. I want you to draw something for me on a diary cover because I also want to give this to someone. And this could be a really nice gift. It's handmade. Mandalas have a, very deep meaning. And the art is very pretty. And my friend loves using diaries. So this will work out. Draw one for me and I'll pay you for it. And I said, okay, why would you pay me for it? And then she said, because your work is worth it. You deserve to be paid for it. Why should you make it for free? If you're good at something, make money out of it. And I said, yeah, I know, right? Why did I not think of that? So she asked me to make something for her, and I did. And she said I could use my own creativity and imagination, and she did not really have anything specific in mind. And I made this mandala. I still remember which one it was, and I still have pictures of it and everything. And I wrapped it nicely with a pretty bow on it, and I gave it to her with a handwritten note explaining what mandalas are, and like a note to the person whom the diary was going to. And since then it became a trend. With every mandala that I would make, I would send out a handwritten note to the person whom it was going to, explaining why it was specially made for that person, and why and what mandalas actually meant. So yeah, that was the first mandala that I ever sold, and since then I've been selling mandalas only.
Sure. I'm curious about the
That's
wall
something.
that you are that is behind you.
Yeah.
The pictures
That's
are
actually my that's actually my cupboard, and that's a vision board. I printed a lot of pictures, cut them out, and made a collage out of them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow. And we are actually waiting for someone to tell us that we are going to pay you for watching your podcast. So we'll wait for that day.
I hope that comes very soon to you.
So yes, exactly. जो मतलब पहला experience होता है ना, तो it is very special indeed. Like for everyone. I remember when I came to Australia. तो मैंने initially I worked as a waiter. और पहला हफ्ता था या पहला महीना. But then a lady gave me $10 of tip. So I framed that $10 note, writing the date and the reason of that note, and then put, I have that, like when I went to India last year, तो मैंने वहाँ पे frame करवा के मेरे room में मैं रख के आया हूँ. So it is a very special experience indeed. And yes, you explain in your own way that what actually is mandala and what is its meaning for you as well.
Right. So, अगर हम देखने जाए, basically the word mandala comes from the Sanskrit word mandal, which literally translates to circle. So anything that is circular can actually qualify as a mandala. So traditionally, back in history, you can trace the roots of mandalas to Buddhism, and from there it spread to other religions and other parts of the other parts of Asia. Actually, it started in Tibet and regions of Nepal and everything, where Gautam Buddha was. And then because these people used to make mandalas on scrolls and take them through the Silk Route to places and give them to other kings or people of importance around. So because of that, mandalas used to travel and they became a thing. So like I mentioned, mandalas were basically circular, and back then when they were made in a very traditional way, those circles were enclosed in either squares or rectangles, and they were made in a certain way with deities at the center of them or around the center. So yeah, that's what they were now, because mandalas are being interpreted in many different ways by different artists and different people, given that there is so much freedom in like the ways in which you can explore art. So because of that, अब ऐसा हो गया है कि mandalas में लोग variations बहुत बनाने लग गए. You could literally do anything that you want with a mandala. You can put anything inside it, around it, use whichever elements you like. So for example, my mandalas have a lot of elements from nature. For example, they have flowers, they have stars, galaxies, planets, moon, mountains, trees, leaves, and things like that. Because I am a nature lover, and that reflects in the art I make. So yeah, and mandalas to me are something that can give you a lot of mental peace. It's like making mandalas is therapeutic, and knowing about them the way I know them, that gives you a lot of it gives you different sense of satisfaction while you're making them. So it's a whole therapeutic process that one goes through, in this whole exploration of mandalas, making them, reading about them, knowing them, meditating with them. That's what people used to do back in history. Mandalas were also like used as a tool of meditation by people. So usme, basically what they did was they would pick a mandala that was the most beautiful or like looked the most pleasant to them, and they would focus all of their attention on it. And to the extent that they would be able to remember every minute detail that was in the art piece, they would focus so much of their attention on it that they could remember everything, to the extent that even if that mandala was not in front of their eyes anymore, they could recall each and every small detail, microscopic detail about it, at will, at whenever they wanted to and wherever they wanted to. So it used to help people reach a state of enlightenment as well. अब मंडालास को अगर हम फिर एक और broader sense में भी देखने जाए, where it's not just limited to the physical realm of things, where we talk about ऐसे tangible things only. अगर intangible level पे, I'm sorry, my cat likes to be a part of my podcast.
That's okay.
So yeah, so if we were to talk about mandalas on an intangible level, apart from what they like, apart from how they help you mentally and everything, mandalas can be seen in everyone's life, in the sense that the circle of friends that you have around you, and you're at the center of it. So that's like a mandala around you. Your life is a mandala around you. There are multiple layers to it. The people who are you at the center of it, the people who are the closest to you in the first circle, then the people who are like a little less close, friends, then family, friends, whichever sequence you want to put it in. And then like maybe your pets, your acquaintances, other people of value, or just mutual friends, whatever. So these multiple circles that you have around you in life that you have created, they can also qualify as a mandala. So anything and everything is a mandala, basically.
Actually, I would like to add a point to what you mentioned. I saw a series called House of Cards, where in fifth or fourth season there were a bunch of
Buddhist monks making mandalas.
Yes. It took them days to make those make that mandala, the giant one, and then they erased it just after making it.
Yes.
It was quite fascinating for me that something that you take a lot of time out of your life, you're making it, and then you're just erasing it out just like that.
Yeah. So the thing is, Buddhism when they used to make mandalas back then, they used to make it with colored sand also. जैसे रंग हम लोग होली में use करते हैं and everything, and what we used to make rangoli in India. So those kind of colors they used to use, and they had those metal funnels that are like small pipes through which they would pour the sand in, these very delicate designs. And their mandalas were very beautiful and multicolored, and it would take so long to make them. And these Buddhist monks, they seem to be in like their whole different zone while making them. Like you can see how much they are enjoying the process. And so when they used to do it traditionally, they would have a whole ceremony where mantras will be chanted. There will be this whole ritual that will be performed before making the mandala, because you want to summon positive energies and cleanse the place where the mandala is being made. And then they choose a surface which is suitable, and then these people will spend days behind making that mandala. It will probably have deities. Buddhist mandalas have a lot of deities in them, because and a lot of symbols that signify something or the other. And they enclose their mandalas in squares that have gates on all four sides. So for energies to come in, positive energies to come in, negative energies to go out, things like that. There was a lot of there was a lot of meaning to everything that they did. And the reason they used to erase the whole mandala, this particularly the sand mandalas that were made by the monks, they would erase the whole thing, collect all the sand and take it in a container, and they would then let it flow in a water body, in a river or something, because they believed that the positivity that they have called upon through this whole process must be shared with the people. So if you distribute that colored sand in the river, the blessing will pass on to everyone who, comes in contact with whatever that water
Yeah.
and everything. And they also believed in the concept of impermanence, that nothing is permanent. So
Yes.
you can work as hard as you want and put your heart into something, but you have to remember that it is not permanent, and it will either transition or change into something later. And you have to develop, a sense of a sense of detachment. Yes, a sense of detachment to whatever you're creating. So yeah, that's why they did that.
Yes, yes. It was a representation of the world is going to end somewhere down the line, so we do not need to get attached with everything that we make or that we create. It was a
Yes.
representation of that, right?
Yeah.
I guess we are as we are creating this podcast on art and mandalas, we are getting more depth. We are gaining a lot of insight about life, right?
Yes, I mean, I was just thinking that it is like अगर एक तरफ देखो तो it is just a piece of art, but मतलब क्या है कि sand से they are creating something and then they are just erasing it. So what's the purpose? हम एक मतलब एक तरफ से देखो तो it is very surprising for me कि ये ऐसा क्यों. And then जैसे उन्होंने अभी बताया कि उसका एक जो मीनिंग है कि नथिंग इज परमानेंट एंड कि जो पॉजिटिव एनर्जी कलेक्ट हुई है दैट शुड पास ऑन टू अदर पीपल एज वेल. तो इट इज वेरी फैसिनेटिंग एज वेल फॉर मी कि मैं मतलब एक सोच में चला गया कि इसका सिग्निफिकेंस क्या हो सकता है इस चीज का. जैसे लाइक इन हिंदुइज्म वी वर्शिप आइडल्स, राइट? एंड देन सेम इज विद other religions as well. They worship their respective they have their own way of worshiping God. So like through this podcast we are filling the gap, we are bridging that
Between
thing
that understanding about the concept. Yes.
yes, exactly. And thank you for sharing that thing. So I had this question again कि इसका मेन सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है. जैसे ऑब्वियसली ये तो आपने बताया कि परमानेंट nothing is permanent and stuff like that, but what is the actual significance and what are some of the misconceptions that people do have regarding mandala?
Okay, so let's start with the significance. So mandalas, like I said, because they have this very deep meaning to them, and they were back when they were made essay by Buddhist monks and artists and like people back in history basically, वो किसी ना किसी मीनिंग को रिप्रेजेंट करते हुए ही बनाए जाते थे हमेशा. एंड बिकॉज सो लाइक from Buddhism it passed on to other religions, we can say, or other people, other communities and everything, right? So Hinduism में जैसे mandalas को यंत्र बोलते थे, they were known as yantras, and these yantras also had very specific symbols and had very specific meanings. And ऐसे बहुत तांत्रिक लोग होते थे, people who used to use mandalas for sadhanas and meditation. So overall, all in all, it was believed that mandalas can help you reach a state of enlightenment. Now अब significance वहीं से उसका derive कर सकते हैं हम. We have, I think you also must have noticed कि mandalas are almost everywhere, especially in religious places, कोई भी religion हो. and you can find them in Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam. um, what other religions do we know of? Most of them, because you will see that all of their religious places have these circular patterns and designs that are very beautiful to look at, very detailed, very intricate, and they worship these, like, even for example, हमारे जो हिंदू गॉड्स होते हैं या अदर रिलीजन्स में भी गॉड्स के पीछे दे हैव दिस सर्कल बिहाइंड द हेड,
The
Yes.
हेलो
halo, the halo. Yes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That is somewhat a mandala if you think about it. So वहां से we can derive कि इसका significance कैसे था, अब क्या है, and how people can find something of value and importance in the whole concept of mandalas and the whole concept of creating them. So they are important because they can transform you internally. On the outside for you it will probably just be like, hi, pen uthaya, paper uthaya, and we are making a piece of art. It's, no big deal. It's like any other art form and everything. There, you probably can't see beyond a certain level if you are just focusing on making them, but internally they can transform you in ways you might not be able to realize. When you get into making them and make them for, a certain period of time, a little while, at least I personally noticed that I have changed a lot from the person that I was back then when I started making them like 2-3 years ago. It helps you transcend the mental boundaries that you have created around yourself. It helps you overcome certain challenges in thinking that you have, that you probably don't realize that you had. So, for example, one thing that I personally experienced was, while making mandalas, is my level of acceptance for the world and people in general, different or not, has increased. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I would like to give the credit for that to my art. I was not a very close-minded person anyway to begin with. I like to think that I was very liberal in terms of my thinking and my way of living. But otherwise also, you know how, for example, to make this simpler, कि एक होता है कि you look at someone and you notice कि there is, some, for example, I don't like red color. I do, but for example, I don't. And I see that someone else is wearing red, and I'm like, yaar, isne red pehna hua hai. There's that judgment that comes in, and then saying something more about it, ki, what, that color doesn't look nice, or maybe, that color she shouldn't be wearing that, or he shouldn't be wearing that. So you see there's this whole thought process of judgment that happens because you dislike something, and you see it somewhere around you, and you immediately take notice of it and you express your dislike for it. Now, what I saw changing, I don't know how the change was triggered inside me, but I observed the change, and that was, so for example, even if I don't like red and I notice that you're wearing red, I'll be like, okay, cool, that person likes red. It looks nice on them. And then from that, going a step ahead to where I see that you're wearing red, but it does not register as something I dislike in my head. There is no other thought about it other than just the observation that you're wearing red. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see red. That's it. There's no judgment, there's no opinion about it. And you know, it just, there's more beauty in all of your surroundings in general, because you are able to move beyond your own opinions about things, beyond your own whatever you've been taught, the conditioning that you've grown up with, and you're able to find a lot of beauty in your surroundings in general, because making art and particularly making mandalas makes you very observant, and also it helps you with your attention span somehow. At least it helped me, because not just because I love making art, obviously, because of that is one reason that my attention is like, I have a longer attention span while making art. But other than that, I am someone who gets distracted very quickly. But I noticed while making mandalas, even if I am in my own thoughts, those thoughts lead to somewhere somewhere meaningful and somewhere a place where things make better sense and more sense than they did earlier. So I think that's why mandalas definitely have significance. You are able to see your own thought processes like a mandala, like a circle, the way they are coming inside your head, what is leading to the one thought, leading to the other thought, leading to the third thought, fourth thought, and that whole line, and how they're all interconnected, and how uh, this whole learning that we have grown up with, that we have things that we have been taught, whether they make sense in our life or not, what we need to unlearn from everything that we have learned till now, all of that. It's like it's like an ocean, diving into an ocean. You go down there and you see this whole new world, and you realize, okay, I did not know this existed. I was just looking at the surface level of things. So yeah, I think in that sense, mandalas have a lot of significance. This is what they did to me. I think they can be very transformative, and they can do a lot of different things to a lot of different people internally, given based on what these people, want to achieve, or depending on how much these people are open to allowing themselves, like, to that transformation for it to come, and you have to allow it, right? So different people can be impacted differently by this, but
Mhm.
definitely give yourself a chance to be impacted by them. That's what I would say.
So be it any art, any piece of art, you are consciously occupied in making it, right? So it takes you to a whole different journey, right? You are getting into the zone of higher consciousness, right? So you are not into this, although you are physically present here, you are not there in the physical realms, right? You are into your thoughts, you are somewhere in the space, right? That you are doing a lot of, that's how I guess that's how a lot of artists, and especially mandala artists, are doing stuff that you do, right? That you put planets. I saw this piece of art of yours where you put a lot of planets and you made it colorful, right? So I guess
Yeah.
that journey from being in the physical world to into higher consciousness, you are able to create something that cannot be imagined by a normal person who is not into art, who has not created a single piece of art. For me, I would not be able to imagine how a person can do this, because I have never done this. I've never made a single piece of mandala. So I guess
Yes.
what you are saying is, so I mean, yes, what you said, that any piece of art, be it mandala or anything, that can change you completely, in terms of spirituality and in terms of being a better person. You look at things differently, right? Not only visual art, anything that you create, you think beyond yourself. You think beyond yourself. You're not you get open, as you mentioned, that there is the first level of there is this first level that where you accept people, where you accept the world as it is, because you started making mandalas, you know how things work. You are in that zone, and then you realize that yes, world can be as it is. I don't have to put my bias and change everything around me just because I want something to be as per my bias and as per my understanding, right? So you get a little open minded by this, right?
So I was saying that I have noticed that most people who are into anything creative, like I said, they could be musicians, they could be writers, they could be in any creative field, or just people who are doing something different in their own field. All of these people have a lot of open-mindedness, because I think to be able to make art, you have to be anyway very accepting and open-minded, because there is so much out there. So
Yes.
unless you accept the world for what it is, only then you will be able to imagine it in a creative way to be something more than what it is.
Yeah.
अदरवाइज वो मेंटल मैनिपुलेशन आएगा कहाँ से, अगर आप इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस एक्सेप्ट ही नहीं कर पाओगे जो चीज जैसी है उसको वैसे.
Hmm.
So that is one thing that I think most artists have. They are open minded and they are very accepting, and on top of that acceptance they have a brilliant imagination where they're able to look at things then more than what they are. So yes, that is why Danish was saying is every person, every artist, कोई भी जो art form practice कर रहे वो लोग उसमें they are able to find that kind of depth where they feel it is transforming them from the inside. And yeah, so I completely agree with what he said.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching this first part. Well, ये पॉडकास्ट हमने 2 पार्ट्स में इसीलिए रखा है क्योंकि ये बहुत ज्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग था हमारे लिए और इसमें जो बातें हैं वो काफी इन डेप्थ है. तो वी वांट कि आप लोग भी अच्छा खासा समय लेकर ये पॉडकास्ट देख सके, तो इसीलिए हमने 2 पार्ट्स में डिवाइड किया है. तो दिस वाज द वेरी फर्स्ट पार्ट, बट वी विल बी रिलीजिंग द सेकंड पार्ट सून. बट उसके लिए आपको सब्सक्राइब करना पड़ेगा, बेल आइकन को हिट करना पड़ेगा, तो यू विल गेट द नोटिफिकेशन, राइट. एंड उसके साथ साथ जो हमारी इंस्टाग्राम, लिंक्डइन, ट्विटर, वो सब जो हमारे सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स है वहां पे भी जाके आप फॉलो कर सकते हैं. तो यू विल गेट एन अपडेट, वी विल गिव यू एन अपडेट ओवर आवर सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स.